Welcome everyone, this is Andre's Restart, and this time we are talking about when we should be expecting the real Nintendo Direct. What do I mean by real Nintendo Direct? Didn't we just get a Nintendo Direct? Well, we did. It was a Nintendo Direct partner showcase. When I say real, what I'm referring to is the next big general Nintendo Direct that will be showcasing published Nintendo titles. A partner showcase in general just shows us partner projects, and that's what we got. We did get one Nintendo published title at the end. It's being published by Nintendo, but also being developed by one of their partners, and that's Endless Ocean Luminous. So it's actually a Nintendo game that's coming out May 2nd. Kind of a big deal, and also important to this overall conversation, but we still need more announcements for this year from Nintendo, and also, of course, more third-party games on top of the first-party games. And so there's a need for a Nintendo Direct. Typically we get them in February's, instead we just got a partner. So when are we getting this big showcase? When are we going to see this? Well, apparently it's happening in April. Is this really the case? Does this make sense? And why is it happening so late into the year compared to prior years? That's what we're talking about today. But before we go forward, let me remind you all that we are currently aiming for 40,000 subscribers. So if you do enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit the notification bell, and enjoy the ride as we talk about Nintendo every day. So April is apparently when we are going to be seeing the next big Nintendo Direct. Why are people saying April? Well, that's because there are two different credible people that are suggesting this is the time it's going to happen, and I do think it makes sense. So one of the people is Brazil, and the other is Necrofelipe. So Brazil is someone on Family Boards. They have their own YouTube channel as well, where they do the occasional podcasts, and may provide some insight into what they've heard from their own sources. And lately they've been catching a lot more attention because there's been a few stories that they've put out that have been corroborated by other places. One story was about enhanced backwards compatibility. Nashville actually talked about this back in December, but Brazil talked about it as well, and other people really caught the story, and it caught a great deal of attention. But then just about a week later, Brazil started talking about how it seems like Nintendo is telling their developers that they have internally delayed the console from holiday 2024 to early 2025, the Switch 2 release date. And then a whole bunch of other places came out and corroborated the story. And so it seems that Brazil's sources are pretty good because, well, he's hearing things that all the other credible places are hearing. But then also we have Necrofelipe from Universe Nintendo, and they're also known for having a pretty good track record. Now recently they did put a report that there's supposed to be a Nintendo Direct on February 15th, and when that didn't happen, some people challenged their credibility. However, we have seen multiple other credible people suggest that, well, the Direct was simply pushed up into next week because of the Xbox podcast. This was suggested by Jeff Grubb. This is also suggested by Pioro, the greatest leaguer of all time in terms of credibility and crystal clear track records. And looking at the announcements we saw during the partner showcase, it is evident that the Xbox podcast had something to do with the announcements there. So I don't think there's any more reason to doubt Necrofelipe now as opposed to before. Their track record, I would say, still holds because it's been corroborated by others, and sometimes when we're talking about things before they're officially announced, plans can change, they can be delayed. Like with this partner showcase, like with the recent reports talking about the Switch 2 internal delay to early 2025. These things happen, so you always gotta be cautious of these rumors, even if they are supposedly coming from great sources. Things can happen. So that all said, these two people are credible, and this is what Brazil said on Family Boards. Here's what I've heard post-Friday. Direct in April, general or mini, don't know. Indie World before that, probably March. June for Switch 2 reveal. Everything in flux always, but I'm feeling good, so eh. And then Necrofelipe follows this up and replies on Family Boards by saying, the April one should be general from what I've heard. No dates this time, I've learned. So what's being suggested here is that an Indie World is going to happen. Brazil is guessing March, but we do not know that for sure. But it makes sense for an Indie World to happen for a general Nintendo Direct. This is typically how it goes. And then April, there will be a Direct, and according to Necrofelipe, this Direct that Brazil has heard about is going to be a general Nintendo Direct. And so that's when we're supposedly getting the general Nintendo Direct, according to these people. But then on top of that, there is supposed to be a Switch 2 reveal in June. Now, you may have heard us talk about a March reveal before, but this is before the supposed delay of the console. That was the initial plan, and now it looks like that's been pushed up 3 months. Of course, it's all rumor, take it with a grain of salt, nothing's been officially confirmed by Nintendo, but this is what we're hearing right now. And I do think it makes sense, especially when we account for the recently announced Endless Ocean Luminous. Endless Ocean is coming out May 2nd. This is a Nintendo published title, and it's finally something that's filling up at least a month of May, but we still have April and June to sort out, and then there's also Beyond. But if Endless Ocean is coming out this early into the month, it would actually make a lot of sense for there to be an April presentation where they can showcase the game one more time in this big direct right before it comes out. Makes a decent amount of sense in my opinion. But something else I've realized is that Princess Peach Showtime is coming out March 22nd, towards the end of March. And so it is possible that we won't get sort of a big game in April, or at least not anything announced until the direct. So this might be the ideal time to actually have a Shadow Drop announcement in April. Over the last year or so, when it comes to the big general Nintendo Directs, we've gotten some sort of Shadow Drop published Nintendo title. So maybe this April we'll see a Shadow Drop announcement of maybe Twilight Princess and or Wind Waker HD, another possibility maybe being Metroid Prime 2, and also possibly Metroid Prime 3. These are different remasters that have been rumored for quite some time, and a lot of us have been expecting them to come relatively soon. So this April Direct, we could see some info on those, and some sort of Shadow Drop fitting during this window does make some sense. But then going beyond this, in May we're supposed to hear from the investors, and then in June is a supposed Switch 2 reveal. And what's interesting about this is that typically June is when we see a big presentation from Nintendo. But since we only got a partner showcase in February, where we usually get a big direct, having it in April instead does kind of position Nintendo to have some sort of significant influx of news in June, but not a typical direct, but actually the reveal for Nintendo Switch 2. So it does kind of make sense, and by this bigger direct happening in April, that this direct might actually be a bigger than usual general Nintendo Direct, but it's going to be highlighting pretty much the entire calendar year for Nintendo Switch 1, because once June comes around, Nintendo is going to start to kick up the marketing for Switch 2, and by this point, when we see a direct, there may be things that are about Switch 2 on top of Switch 1. So really, I can see this happening. It wouldn't shock me if we get a big April direct. It sort of fits with us needing some sort of Shadow Drop in April, and also it happening a few weeks before the release of Endless Ocean, so that can get some additional marketing. But also, since it's so late into the year, we can get a lot of big releases and have a good perspective for the rest of the year. But then it's close enough to June where a lot of the marketing momentum will be solid enough for Nintendo for where they can start to kick off the advertising cycle for Switch 2, and then that'll hold us over until maybe an August, or the more typical time, a September Direct, where we just have kind of a hybrid of everything we need to sort of hear about, and that positions us for what's being reported to be an early 2025 Switch 2 release. Some part of me still holds out some semblance of hope that maybe they squeeze in a holiday release for Switch 2, but most likely, given all the reports, it's an early 2025 release. But this all does kind of make sense. Now, I recognize there may be a little bit of an exhaustion in terms of talking about Nintendo Directs because, well, we've been waiting so long for a Direct and all we've gotten is a partner showcase, and so a lot of the recent discussions have been about a partner showcase, but the bigger Direct still needs to come. We still need to get those bigger Nintendo announcements, and I do think we're set up relatively well for April. Now, there's been a lot of talk about what's happening with Metroid Prime 4. Is it being saved for Switch 2, or is it being used as the big holiday title for this year, since Nintendo's going to be saving all of the other bigger stuff for Switch 2. Personally, it's a toss-up for me, but I think April is going to be a big deal because it's going to be very telling for how Nintendo is going to handle the rest of the year for Switch 1. Will they have some sort of big holiday title? Will it be Metroid Prime 4? Or will it be something else? Could it be Donkey Kong? There's been a Donkey Kong game in rumored for quite some time, and the Donkey Kong expansion is happening this year, so maybe it's that. Or maybe they're just going to fill up the year with a whole bunch of quality remakes and remasters. I already mentioned several already with the Zelda and Metroid ones, but also you can maybe hear about the rumored Fire Emblem or the rumored F-Zero GX remaster. These are also possibilities. We should be getting news about Pokemon games this year as well, so that's sure to help out the 2024 lineup, but it's looking like April is where we're really going to know what's going to happen. This will make everything all the more clear. So I guess we'll find out in about a month and a half, assuming the rumors are true. But what do you think? Do you expect a big direct in April or another time? Let me know in the comments below. This is Andres Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care.